All right, so good afternoon, everybody. Before I get started, I just kind of want to explain that we are broadcasting live on YouTube. This meeting now is a 3D camera that will actually pick up on noises around the room. So if anybody's speaking or asking a question, you may end up broadcast live on the internet. I don't have any waiver forms or anything. I'm not sure of legality. I'm sure you're all agreeing to it now. You're welcome to get up and leave if you don't want it. But it's really pretty quick. If you have a question, it kind of pans over to you real quick, and then it'll come back to me, and it's not a big deal, I wouldn't think.
So if we don't talk, it doesn't direct at you?
Well, if anybody over there talks, the picture from here is pretty much a panoramic thing of the whole room. So pretty much anybody talking is going to get everybody on camera.
So if I sit over there, I might be out of camera?
If you talk, it will find you, no matter what. I'm sure anybody who's watching is doing it just to learn some things, so nobody's going to be trolling you later. I don't think that's how you on the internet. Yeah, so I'm going to be talking today about managing the user experience on your website. And this is in particular, taking the customers that come to your site and converting them into customers, taking visitors that come to your site and converting them into customers. Leads, conversions is a term I'm going to use a lot. What that basically is whatever your action that you wanted on your site, whether it's to subscribe to a newsletter, to buy a product, to download an app, whatever it is you're trying to get customers to do on your website, that's a conversion. When it successfully happens, you have converted that visit into a lead, into a sale, whatever you refer to it as. The process of actually getting that visitor to turn into what you wanted them to on your site is a conversion. That's the term I'll be using for that. Welcome, everybody. I've got some feedback forms to pass around. I'm supposed to collect them by the end. Hello. Do you have an extra hand? Oh, I do. Oh, that's fine. Thank you very much. You know what that is. Some simple questions that you want from my life. Go back to when we're done here. I usually leave time after the presentation and answer questions. Hopefully give everybody a chance. Well, don't judge me yet. Yeah, I'm going to be using some terms like call to action that maybe people aren't familiar with. A very simple concept, though. I think we'll be able to get through that. So basically, during this entire process, what I try to do, this is really one of the first things I do when I have a new client. They have an existing website. I'll take a look at what they're currently doing and map it up against what I understand works for converting traffic into customers. And in the process of doing that, I just try to keep in mind that I'm looking at it not as the business owner, not as the person who's making the presentation, but as the person who's actually visiting the site. So what type of person would come to the site? What are they looking for when they get there? And what do they want to do when they're there? Not necessarily what do I want them to do, but what is the customer, the visitor, going to want to do when they're on my site? Because I always want to be thinking in terms of making it easy for them and kind of guiding them toward whatever goal I have in place or in mind for them. It is a balance between keeping things informative and making sure that you're giving people the information that they need, but making it simple enough that once they're ready to make a decision or act in some way, it's always very easy for them to do that. And there are going to be different types of visitors. Some want more information. Some other people are ready to just go ahead and initiate contact with you. Say, I don't want to read your website, just give me a call and we'll talk about it in person. You're going to get different types of people. So I try to appeal to both of those people with every web page that you make, every opportunity you have to touch that customer in some way. Try to keep that in mind, think in those terms. This person may want a lot of information, but they may not, and make both of those options available as much as possible. I'm going to try to talk about how you would do that, or how I do that at least, and other people that I've read about do it as well. The three tools primarily in this particular case that I'm going to be talking about, landing pages, CTAs, which is an abbreviation for call to action, call to actions, I guess, but it's calls to action if you're going to make it plural, and forms. These three tools are key tools for driving action, capturing opportunities, and tracking the success. So not only are you going to be encouraging the people to act a certain way, you need to give them an opportunity to act in that way, to give them an opportunity to become a customer, become a lead, And also you want to keep track of that, how that happened, where they came from, how often it's happening, so that you can optimize what you're doing on your end. And particularly if you're spending money on advertising, you'd want to know what works and what doesn't. If you're spending money on Facebook ads, but all of your leads are coming from Twitter, probably don't spend so much money on Facebook ads anymore. Put some of that on Twitter. That's the sort of thing, and I'll be talking about how you track that sort of thing as well, which is a very important part of it. A landing page essentially is a web page that a visitor visits after clicking on a specific link, whether it's a link that you put in a social media post, if it's a link from a pay-per-click ad, or even from internal links in your own site. If you have a link inside of your site that's telling somebody, hey, if you want to contact me, click this button, the page that they go to after clicking that link is a landing page. Normally, when somebody's talking about a landing page, they're talking about an external link, somebody's coming from a social media post or an ad. But if you on your own site have a contact form or something you want to direct people to, think of those in terms of landing pages as well. There are pages that somebody's going to specifically because you told them to click something and then they did it. And it usually is intended to promote a specific action. The landing page should be intended to get the customer to do something that you want them to do. I've got a few examples in here. They're not necessarily aesthetic examples. I don't want you to think of it as this is what a landing page should look like. I put 3 different ones in here that have a different look because that's not the important part. There are elements of it that are consistent across different landing pages. But in this case, I chose this one because it's kind of a common look nowadays, but you'll see a couple of other variations as well. Basically in this one, I've got a little list over here of things to notice. The hero image, what that is just a person who is happily enjoying whatever it is you're trying to tell them to enjoy. Like, look, for instance, this lady here makes up to $35 an hour driving her car. Look how happy she is. And that's, they call that a hero image, somebody who's successfully doing what you want the visitor to do already. Simple appeal, that's the make up to $35 an hour driving your car. Real straightforward. It tells people what they want to hear, not like, hey, sign up with Lyft and become a car driver. Hey, make some money. That's much more appealing. Multiple conversion paths. What I mean by that, you'll see we've got an application here to actually become a driver. And down here at the bottom, you've got a calculator to see how much money you would make if you were a driver. So somebody who's coming here and is ready to go ahead and apply to start driving for Lyft, they can do that. But if they're not ready to apply, they're going to want some more information. It's probably going to start with how much money am I going to make doing that. And this will kind of direct them down another conversion path, which will ultimately come back to a form like this, I'm sure, to actually apply. But this is an example of appealing to both of those kind of visitors, ones who are ready to act now and the ones who don't want to act now. They want a little more information and will probably be ready to act later at some point, hopefully. Clear and obvious CTA buttons. The call to action buttons are very obvious. They stand out from the page. It's clear that it's something that you can interact with, especially on mobile devices now. You're going to see buttons stand out a lot more than they used to. It's kind of become a big deal because you actually touch them with your fingers now. So I guess it's more appealing. But yeah, make the buttons very obvious, and multiple conversion paths, I think, is an important part of this page. Here's another example, very different. This is for more technical customers. Oh, I didn't even know it scrolled like that. Cool. This is for an ebook. I think it's like a threat modeling. So the people that are coming here looking for more specific type of information, a specific type of visitor. So you don't need a big high-res picture. Give them a little bit of information about what it is you're offering. A simple description of what the ebook is, a picture of it, a bullet list of the benefits. Bullet lists are great on landing pages. It allows you to give people information in a very easy to read type of format. It's just more comfortable. And again, particularly on smaller screens, which we're dealing with a lot now, something like 60% of web traffic now in the US is on mobile devices of some sort. And it's close to that around the world now. Yes?
Who came up with this design? A reader or an author or the editor?
Who came up with this design in particular?
Yes, because it's an ebook.
Yeah. This is an ebook that's specifically targeting engineers. But it's a little bit different. If you're selling an ebook that's appealing to just your general layman, you might want something that looks more like the Lyft page with a big cool picture and So the fact that it's an ebook, I wouldn't focus too much on that. It's an ebook that's specifically targeted to somebody who's interested in threat modeling. And it's not for a general audience. The people that are coming here are going to have very specific things they're looking for. I don't know what kind of book you'd be talking about, but I imagine it's more of a general audience type of book.
Fiction.
A fiction book that anybody could really appreciate. Most people could appreciate. In that case, a little description of what's in the book and the story and stuff would be fine. Picture of it would be okay. It's kind of unnecessary, really. But what I like about this, and I actually borrowed these 3 landing pages in particular from HubSpot, who had a list of their favorite landing pages. I thought that was an easy way to do my research, and just let somebody else do it for me. But in the things that do stand out to me and are kind of consistent across all these landing pages, keep your description very simple. In most cases, you want a lot of text on web pages. Text is what gets indexed by search engines, and I always recommend at least 300 words per page for indexing purposes. Keyword density of 2.4%, anywhere between 1 and 2.4% for search engine optimization type of stuff. In a landing page, though, you're not creating this page to get indexed by search engines. You're not creating this page to appeal to robots. This page is specifically to appeal to actual people who are already on your site or already coming to your site because they clicked the link or whatever information you provided that made them act to come to this page. It's not because they went into a search engine and found this threat modeling ebook. They might have come to the site from a search engine, but it's most likely a different landing page that was created to target search engines. This is if you have a paid ad, if you have a social media ad or link, and you want people to come directly to it. If you're optimizing a page for search engines, again, you're gonna want at least 300 words on it, and this isn't gonna measure up to that anyway. So when you're creating your landing pages, I guess there is a kind of a difference. If you're creating pages that you expect to have people come to organically from a search engine, they're going to be different rules for that. You're going to have to worry about keywords. You have to worry about the right amount of text that you have, the size of images and loading speeds. That stuff is not as relevant with these types of landing pages. These types of landing pages are for directed traffic, people that are clicking a link, something you paid for, whether it's a paid ad you put out, social media post, like I said, an email blast, and you want people to come to your site and perform a specific action. Download something, sign up for something, contact us for more information, get a free consultation, whatever the case may be that you have to offer, and a way to capture their information. That's what these pages are specifically. So I just don't conflate the two things. I'm not talking about how to have pages that are good search engine ranking pages. These pages are specifically intended to convert people into customers. The idea. All right, simple form, obvious CTA button is actually below the fold. That's one of the things I'm going to talk about. It's an old newspaper term. If you have something on the front page of a newspaper and you have to actually unfold it, and the way that it's presented to you in the stack, anything that's above the fold, it takes precedence over. It's got much more eyeball time on it than the stuff below it. The same rules apply on a website. If they have to scroll to see the information, the amount of people that are going to see it is actually less. There's a measurable percentage of people that are not even going to see the stuff that they had to scroll to see because they left the site before they were interested enough to do that. So in this case, the button, the form is below the fold. It's not as big of a deal here though, because again, you directed somebody to this page specifically to download the ebook. So the fact that they have to scroll a little bit to do it is not going to be that big of a deal to them. Just another real quick example. This is Code Academy. They teach people how to code. I had no idea I put these in here that they scrolled automatically with that. I didn't even set that up. It's not a very good effect, actually, apparently. But anyway, Code Academy just has a real simple picture here, some brackets with a cursor between them. If you're a developer, you're into development, I guess that would appeal to you. The form is just 3 fields, email, password, username. You're just creating your account there, and you're ready to go. A simple but appropriate image, a simple description of the offer, a low friction form. By that, I mean, you're not asking for a lot of information and you're not asking for personal information that people aren't comfortable giving. That's always going to be one of the rules of forms. Try to keep the friction down. Try to make it as easy as possible and as comfortable as possible for the person to fill it out. If you're asking for a phone number and you don't need a phone number, then stop asking for it. If you're asking for an email address and you're not ever going to use it, then don't ask for it. Anything that is not essential to them becoming a customer, don't ask for it on your form if you can avoid it. If you don't need a date of birth, definitely don't ask for a date of birth. And again, I'm not gonna go back up to it, it's just scrolling like crazy and can't even look at it, but that one also had 2 conversion paths. So if somebody wanted to sign up for Code Academy, they could put that information in the form, click on the button. But down at the bottom of the screen, there's actually a Learn More button as well. So if you wanted more information, you click on that and it takes you down to the additional information on the page. This is just kind of a list of the landing page basics, the concepts that I'd expect or hope everybody can keep in mind. Be as clear and concise as possible. What do you want the visitor to do? There's no reason to be fancy with your language or try to impress anybody with your landing page. You really want to speak to them very clearly about what it is you want them to do, what it is that you're offering. If you can be funny about it, great, personable, that stuff's fine, nothing wrong with that. But make sure you're focusing on telling the customer or the visitor exactly what you're going to do for them if they fill out this form, or if they click this button, or if they do whatever you're asking them to do. Keep your descriptive text short and simple. Bullet lists are nice. Provide a clear CTA for users that are ready to act now, and easy access to more information for users who are not. That's the multiple conversion path idea. Give the people, because you're going to have people who come to your site, who came to your site already knowing that they wanted it for whatever reason, because they read about you or a friend told them about you. They don't need to scroll through a bunch of paragraphs of explanation or selling language. They just want to go ahead and sign up for it. Make it easy and possible for those people, but also make it easy and possible for the people who want more information as well. Call to action, we're going to get to now. An actionable link, preferably a button, in your website used to guide users to a particular action or conversion goal. You'll see these all over the internet. CTAs, in general, it doesn't refer to just the button. Ordinarily, there's like a little bit of text along with the button, like make up to $35 an hour driving your car, and the button. The whole combination of those things is a call to action. I'm specifically going to be talking about the buttons though, because it is important, and especially with mobile devices now, links don't work nearly as well as buttons do. You want it to be, it's bigger than the regular text, it's a different color, it stands out, and definitely recommended to use buttons when it's appropriate instead of just regular text links. Some of the basics to keep in mind: make them visually appealing. You want them to stand out, but not for being ugly. You do want them to stand out from the page and be obvious that they're there, but make sure it's not, if you've got a page where everything is green and yellow and you want to stick a big purple button in the middle of it, it might be okay, might look okay, but if it looks ugly, it'll probably look ugly to other people too, so just try to keep that in mind. Use text that is specific or unique. There's a lot of data on this, actually, if you really want to get scientific about it, to see what sort of text on a button works for your particular industry or what the type of target customer you have. In almost every case, though, things like sign up, submit, do poorly compared to anything else. And it sounds kind of counterintuitive because that's what they're doing. They're signing up for something, they're submitting the form. If for whatever reason, it's just people are not as compelled to do it as if you say something like, show me now, or take me, or something to that effect. So it's a little more active, I guess, for one thing. But that varies too, from one industry to another. Some people, like for instance, an engineer is going to be more interested in one type of text on a button compared to like a designer who might be interested in a different type of text on the button. Ordinarily, companies test. The only way to really find out what's best for you is to do A/B split testing, where you try this button for 30 days, switch the text, try a different button for 30 days, see which one did better, and go with that one. And do that forever, actually. When now you found which one does better, try a different version and see if you can find what's even better. That's actually something I'm going to do in one of my workshops in the near future. I plan to do split testing and explaining different ways of doing that to make sure that you're continually optimizing what you're doing. Don't just say, I'm going to go through my website, make it as good as I possibly can. It's really an ongoing process that you can do forever and ever. As long as your website exists, it can be better. It can have better language here, better colors here, better layout here. Test all of that stuff. One thing, change one thing at a time, test it against the next one, just incrementally improve it forever. That's the plan, the goal at least. Try to place at least one above the fold. That's what I was talking about. If they have to scroll to get to your call to action, find out if you can move it up. One thing you'll see a lot of people do is put like a contact us button right up in the header at the top of the page. Sometimes it's a sticky header so that even if you scroll down the page, it stays right there. So you'll always see that button, or a phone number, just putting a phone number in your header, something that at least gives a person an opportunity to reach out to you before they have to scroll and investigate more on your page. Yes.
Did you refer to it as a sticky button?
A sticky header, I said.
Sticky
A
header.
sticky button, though, is another, anything, a sticky thing just stays on your page relative to your screen, depending on where you're scrolling, it'll just hover there. All right, move on to forms. Forms, obviously everybody knows what a form is. Forms can be provided for users for a variety of purposes: requesting additional information, subscribing to a newsletter, making an appointment, downloading something. Many reasons. You can ask a visitor to provide some basic information, and that's going to be the goal ultimately. Once you have gotten them to the point where they can provide information, you've now done something that will allow you to track your success. And it can change everything about what you're doing, because now you'll have real information about who came to your site, where they came from. You can see which pages they visited on your site while they were there, how long they spent on each page. And over time, you're going to learn a lot more about your customer and about your target customer, your ideal customer, and about your site and how well it works. That is something I'm going to get into and make it a little bit technical, just to kind of warn everybody. I don't know if anybody has experience with Google Analytics. Conversion tracking, typically that's how I do it, is through analytics. I've got screenshots in here and stuff, so prepare yourself. We're going to get into that a little bit. Hopefully it's not too bad. All right, form basics, some things to keep in mind. Reduce friction. Ask for as little information as possible. If you don't need it, if it's not absolutely essential, then don't ask for it, is my recommendation. Treat the button that submits the form like it's a CTA. And here's an example. If they've already clicked on a button to get to the site, they're already filling out the form, that button on the form, it shouldn't just say submit either, if you can avoid it. If you can think of something better, something clever to say, download the book, download now is even better than submit.
So you said don't use sign up, and that form has sign up. So what would you put in there?
Sign up. Oh, well, I'm not really talking about the heading, I guess, so much as the actual button itself. The thing that in this case, it's create account. That you could switch those. In this case, I agree with that. Sign up is not really the best thing to use there. Maybe create account would have been better for a heading, actually. On this page, I didn't select this form for any reason that it's a good form or anything. I just did a Google image search for forms and just grabbed one. So I should have probably put a little more thought into it to find one that I would say, now this is a good example of a great form. It's not necessarily, it's just a picture of a form I found. I don't like sign up as a heading, to be honest with you, and I don't really like, well, create account's not bad for the button. Create account's fine. But I would recommend trying something else other than sign up and measure that up against sign up and see which form's doing better. Make sure the form provides feedback to the user to let them know that it was successfully submitted. The way I do that ordinarily is with a thank you page, and there's another reason for that as well. This is what makes it possible. It makes it easy to track those submissions. This is a page that nobody will ever touch except by submitting that form. And that's essential here in a minute. But it's also good for another reason. You want the user to know that it was successful, that they did successfully submit the form. You don't have to go back and fill it out again or sit around wondering if it was done. Ordinarily, if you're using something like WordPress, one of the GoDaddy central sites, or Wix or any Squarespace or anything, they have forms that are built into the site. They're already created. They already will have some sort of confirmation if it was submitted correctly, validation if they don't enter their email address correctly. All that stuff's built into those forms, so you won't have to think about that. I like thank you pages, though, because of what I'm about to get into. You can also do this without thank you pages, but it's more technical and more difficult. I think most people, if you have the option to redirect from your form to a thank you page, what I'm about to talk about is much, much easier. All right, track your conversions. Use Google Analytics to track your conversions and learn how frequently users convert, what external sites those users came from, and what pages were visited before converting. You can learn a lot of other stuff too. Those are the first things that we're going to look at today. But other things that are very helpful: session duration. How long were those people actually on a particular page before they clicked on your call to action? Or how long were they looking at your form before they filled it out? The bounce rate, the conversion rate as far as the percentage of people that come to that page compared to the percentage of people that actually fill it out. So if 1 out of 100 visitors clicks on a contact us button, but only 1 out of 100 of those people actually fills out the form once they get there, Could that be improved? Is there something about your form that's turning them away? Maybe there's something that could be to get 2 of those or 2% instead of 1%. Those are things you can learn from analytics. I'm mostly just going to talk about where they came from and how often it happens. Those are the main things to really look at first. You do this by creating goals in analytics, and that's what we're going to go over here in a minute. You view your conversions overview to see relevant data about your conversions, such as how many you had, what percentage of your visitors became conversions, and what sites they came from before they did that. Keep track of which channels are leading to the most conversions so you know where to focus future efforts. This is particularly important, again, if you spend money to get traffic. If you're paying money for advertising, you want to know whether or not you're getting any kind of return on that investment. There's a perfect, very direct, straightforward way to know that. I put this much money into AdWords, I got 5 conversions out of it this month. I put this much money into Facebook, I got 4 conversions out of that. Which one's a better value? And this is an easy way to know that. This is actually one of my clients, so I tried to blot out the identifying information there. This is the home page you get to. And first of all, I guess I should mention, if you don't use analytics, if you don't have the analytics tracking code installed on your site, definitely do that immediately as soon as you possibly can, because as soon as you install that code, it's going to start recording all this information. You don't have to do anything else. It's a little 5-line snippet of JavaScript. And if you're using something like WordPress or something, there's a good chance they've asked you already to get that set up when you were setting your site up. So it's probably on there. But if not, try to find out if you're using analytics. If you don't have an analytics account, get that code, that tracking code added to your site as soon as possible. Once you do, though, you'll come to the home page, and you'll see down at the very bottom here on the left, there's an admin button. This is what's going to take you to the next screen where you can actually set up your goals. Way over here in the far column, all the different administrative properties, there's one that's called goals. And click on that. Again, this, by the way, the recording that's happening or the live streaming is going to be recorded. So if anybody wants to come back and review this later, it's actually going to be on YouTube, the presentation and everything. I'm sharing my screen on it right now. Nobody's looking at me or us. It's the actual presentation. So this is all being recorded for review later. Click on goals. You'll come to this screen where it lists all of your current goals. I have multiple goals set up for this guy because he does have different things that he's trying to do on the site, but also it helps me. I like to have lots of different things going on so I can see what's working better or not. It's kind of the testing thing again. So in this case, he's got 3 different goals that are active right now. I actually just deactivated one of them. Click on new goal to create a new one. Oh, too far. On here, you'll decide what type of goal it is. This isn't important to you. This is more important to Google for their numbers. But just go ahead and whatever it is, try to find one that's most relevant to you. Contact us. In this case, I selected. Create an account. I can't even read these. Make a payment, make an appointment are all different options there. See whatever is most appropriate for you. Next page, you'll describe your goal, give it a name, decide how you're going to set up. In this case, it's a destination. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell analytics that anytime somebody visits this particular page, count that as a conversion. I've reached a goal. This visitor has reached my goal. And that's going to be that thank you page we created. So you created a thank you page for your form. You tell analytics every single time somebody hits that page, that's a successful goal completion for me. And that's what they'll keep track of now. Once you've done that and you've got your goal set up, back to the home page again. Down here at the very bottom of this list is conversions. Conversions are the people who have successfully completed whatever goal you set in analytics. If somebody has met that goal, they've converted. You'll see here, you'll get a list, the total completions, the goal value, by the way, that may come in handy for some people. I just leave it at 0. You can tell analytics how much you value each one of those goals. Every time somebody fills out this form, that's worth $30 to me. So, because you'll know after a while, every 10 people that fill out a form, one of them buys such and such thing. So of those, just divide that amount of that one thing by those 10 people that it took you before you sold one. Each one of those conversions is worth, $1.50 or whatever to you. You can put that in there and it'll keep track of how much money you've generated from your traffic as well. Your goal conversion rate is the total number of people who visited your site, the percentage of them that became a conversion. going to be pretty low in most cases, I would think. This is a guy too, by the way, that pays money. He advertises quite a bit. So the traffic you'll see on here, like you get, 4 or 5 conversions every day. He's buying that stuff. That's not really what happens for everybody, just so you know. All right, the next thing I want to look at on this screen, if you click on source medium down here, this is very, very telling information. You'll actually see where each of these conversions came from. You've got Google Organic. It's number 1 on here, which is good. That means I'm doing something right. That's regular organic search that you're not paying for. That's somebody went to Google, searched for whatever it is you're offering, found your site in their natural organic search results, and then just came through and became a goal completion, a conversion. Below that, you'll see Google CPC, cost per click. Those are paid Google ads that became conversions. Direct, none. This is something that irritates me to no end. It's kind of like dark traffic is what I like to call it. I've heard somebody else refer to that as well. Google calls it direct traffic is anybody who either typed your address directly into the address bar, just came right to your site, it wasn't from a search, or if they had a link in like a PDF file or an email that's not tracked for some reason, and it's it came from that email link. Basically, it just means Google doesn't know where it came from. And that could be as simple as the person has their browser set to not accept cookies. If they don't accept cookies, Google's not going to be able to track what they're doing and where they're going. And so when they're on your site with their browser blocking all the cookies, Google's just going to say, we don't know. Direct, none is what they call it. Direct, I have no idea. They're trying to trick us into thinking they know what they're talking about, I guess. It should just say unknown. It's really unknown. m.facebook.com is interesting, actually, because that's Facebook, but it's specifically on a mobile device. That's what the M is. In the bottom, Bing Organic is organic search on Bing. Organic, again, is unpaid natural search. You go to Bing, type search in, or whatever your search term is. It'll bring up results. Some of them are paid. Some of those are ads, and you'll see that. It'll say ad, or it'll be an obvious ad. But the ones that are not paid for, that are just naturally coming up because they've been indexed and ranked in that way, are organic. And ideally, that's what you're going to want to get the most of, because you don't have to pay for those, obviously. So to recap what we've talked about here, use CTAs early, above the fold, and often. I try to put a call to action pretty much anytime I have like a new segment of information. If there's a paragraph that I put a heading on, because it's distinct enough that it gets a heading, I could put a call to action there as well at the end of that paragraph. Contact us. There's still other paragraphs you could read, and you're welcome to do that. But if you're interested, go ahead and click this button and let's move on. Try to do that as often as it's not, as long as it's not offensive or obnoxious and actually getting in the way of your ability to read the page. I guess maybe take that into consideration. But if you've got 300 words and you want to throw a button there, even though there's another 1,000 words on that page, absolutely do it. Put as many as you can in and do it as early as you can, as high on the page above the fold as you can as well. Create a landing page that guides a visitor's action. Create landing pages that guide a visitor's actions and make it easy to convert. You want to let people know exactly what you want them to do, what you're offering to them in exchange for doing it, and make it real easy for them to go ahead and sign up or download or whatever the case may be. Use simple forms that ask for as little information as possible. Like I mentioned, they call that friction. Every time you add a field to your form, you're adding friction to the form. Anytime you remove a field away from it, you're removing friction. So you're making it easier for the people to fill it out. And again, if anybody wants to dig into it, this is actually very scientifically studied as well. The likelihood that somebody will fill out a form based on the number of fields it has, what types of fields they are. A form that asks for a date of birth compared to a form that does not. There's, literally millions of data points that have been reported about this stuff, and it's available if you want to look for that sort of thing and really go down that rabbit hole. You certainly can. It's so industry specific, though. It's really not helpful. And in a general sense, if you're like into marketing and you're trying to help other people that work in different industries, it could be useful. But unless you're going to find data that's specific to your business and your product or whatever it is you're doing, it's probably not going to be that helpful, because it does vary from one place to another. by and large, though, it's pretty standard and pretty consistent. The more fields you have on your form, the less likely somebody is to fill it out. So you want to reduce the number of fields, the number of things you ask for from each person as much as possible. Then you will use Google Analytics to track your conversions and discover opportunities to optimize your CTAs, your landing pages, your forms, and also your advertising efforts. And that's something that I think I want to make sure I reiterate. If you are spending money on AdWords, if you are spending money on any type of traffic, whether you bought an email list and you want to do an email blast to people, if you're putting money into something, you want to know what the return is on that investment and whether or not you want to put more into it, or if you need to find some other means of advertising because it's not working for you. This technique, very simple technique of just creating a goal, creating a thank you page, create a goal in analytics, and just keep track of how many people hit that page, where they came from. You're going to know exactly whether or not your money is doing what you want it to be doing and what you should put more into or take money out of. And if you're not paying for traffic, it's still very, very helpful to know if your tweets that you're putting out are generating all your goals, or maybe I need to spend more time on Twitter. Or if your Instagram activity is what's creating all your traffic that converts, we'll spend more time on Instagram. So it's not just about money, about your time and your efforts as well. Pay attention to where the traffic is actually coming from so that you know where to double down on what you're doing to maximize what is actually working for you and cut out anything that's not working for you. Optimizing your website for conversions will not only help with organic traffic, that's what I was just talking about, but will also make any advertising and marketing efforts more efficient. So the things that you do on your page too, not just about tracking the conversions to make sure you're putting your money in the right place, the things that you do to make your pages more user-friendly, easier to navigate, easier to get to your contact form, more interesting or more appealing to them, all that stuff is not only going to help the user experience and create more customers, but if you are spending money outside of your site, all the traffic that's coming to your site is affected by these optimization efforts. So your paid traffic is now going to be more likely to convert and more likely to do what you want them to do as well. So anything you do to your site, if you are going to be spending money, it's only going to help that money be more efficient for you. Oh, and that was it. Wow, that was fast. So content marketing is what I'm going to be talking about next time, just to kind of give everybody a little bit of a preview. Basically creating content that you are distributing freely for everyone as a means of building your brand and generating traffic back to your website, whether through blogs, social media, just making a white paper available somebody has to download. Now you can capture information from them as well, and they become a lead, and you can do email marketing with them. We'll talk about all that kind of stuff next time. But let's go back to what we were doing here today. In fact, here's what I'll do. I'll stop sharing and put us all on camera and get a little bit more in depth or answer any kind of questions at all. I'm not sure what's happening here. Just bear with me a moment. All right, I think we're on camera now. Yeah, okay. So, does anybody have any questions in general about what we talked about here today? Yes, go ahead.
On my buttons that I have, really right now, all I'm doing is, if you want to subscribe to email. But one of them, when they click on it, they tell me they're clicking on it, they're sending me, filling out my little, it looks like, 3-line form, but I'm not getting those, but they are supposed to be linked to my email. So where would that, is that a coding problem in that button?
Yeah. If you're using GoDaddy, GoCentral,
Right.
I mean, it's hard to tell in there because you have so little control over it. You can't even see the code. And I don't know how to find the code in there myself.
Oh, gosh.
I haven't spent a whole lot of time with it, but it's something you're pretty much stuck in their template. Somewhere in there, though, your email address that you entered for the go-to is either you typed something wrong, some numbers got transposed or letters got transposed or something. It's just really simple typing error. It's got to be the only thing that would make sense for that.
I have 2 of them, but the other one, when they type it in, the button that says, send us your email, and we'll send you information, that one comes through, so I don't know. I mean, we obviously have an email right in there somewhere, but Okay, well, I guess I'll.
Yeah, it's just that button that just got configured incorrectly, it sounds like to
I
me.
just didn't
It
know
should be
if
real
it messed
simple
it
and
up,
easy
because
to
I
fix.
had two, action buttons, if that can mess things up on your website, or if there only should be one action button.
I mean, it depends on how it's set up. There are a lot of technical things that could go wrong there. If the button itself, but yeah, the button could be set up to have an action that's performed on the form, and that form may then send the email. The button itself may just be telling the page that the form is now submitted, and then the page has some other function that it's gonna call, like, once the form is submitted, I'm going to do this other thing. It may be hard-coded into the form itself, or just something the page is doing once the form is submitted, because it has an event listener on it that's listening to see if the form is
I probably
submitted.
put a wrong button on there then.
It's, yeah, the wrong
Not knowing
button,
what I was doing.
type the wrong email address in somehow, I mean,
understand
very
better
easy.
now, so I can go back and look and see what I did.
Oh, good, hopefully. Go ahead.
Yes, on the thank you form, where they filled out the form and they got the message, thank you. And you said that when you're doing the Google Analytics,
Mhm.
that you could set that up as something you wanted as a goal.
Mm-hmm.
So like for you to, I need a little more, is that going to be pretty straightforward? But you also mentioned something about creating a direct to page. So is that a pretty easy process to do from the Google Analytics, or do you have to do some other stuff on your own to make that happen?
I'm not sure I understand making the page itself, are you asking how
You
difficult that
said-
is?
You made a reference when you were talking about the thank you page. You said if you create a direct to page, or redirect or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, is that a simple process in the Google Analytics form where you set certain goals? Does that create that response for you and that extra page that pops up? Or is that on you to create somehow through a redirect? Am I making
That is on you to create the thank you page and the redirect. If you're using, this is the thing, everybody has different stuff, they're using different technology. Use WordPress, for instance, a common form plugin on there, Contact Form 7. There's a tab on it, it just says redirect to this page when the form is submitted. And you would just put your thank you page in there, and the form will automatically redirect to that page once it's submitted. So depending on what you're using. I mean, I imagine other things, I've never used like Wix, I've never used Squarespace, any of those kinds of things. If they have forms that they provided, in all likelihood, they have some sort of redirect built into it, and you could tell them what page you want to send somebody to.
Just curious.
I mean, if you're coding it, if you're just typing HTML, that'd be something you have to do yourself. I do with like a little bit of JavaScript, a little time, they wait 8 seconds and then send them to this other page. It's like 3 lines of code.
You said on WordPress, it was a specific place you went to build that?
Yeah, there are lots of different forms, different plugins on WordPress that give you forms. The one that I usually use is called Contact Form 7. And when you're creating your contact form in there, you configure different things. You tell it where you want the emails about the contact form being submitted, where you want those emails to be sent. You put your email address in there. What page do you want it to redirect to after it's been submitted? All that stuff is built into the form. You just have to tell it, just answer the questions that it's asking you about it as you're setting it up, basically. Now, let me go back on that. Contact Form 7 redirects is actually a separate plugin. So you have to have the form and you have to have Contact Form 7 redirect as a plugin separately. The reason they did that is because you don't have to use a thank you page to track your conversions. You can go into analytics and define a conversion as this form being submitted. It's much more difficult though, because now you have to tell analytics how to listen for this form and how to know when that form was submitted. With this, you're just typing in an address, like when a user lands on this page, then that counts as a goal. Otherwise, if you're making analytics listen to your form being submitted, it's much more difficult to set that up. You don't need a thank you page in that case, because analytics will know that the form was submitted and that counts as a goal. I only mentioned the thank you page because it's much, much easier to set up the goals in analytics and to handle that part of it using that method than the forms. You kind of have to be a developer really to do it the other way, or at least familiar with that sort of stuff. The analytics too, another thing you'll see in there if you do get into analytics. I highly recommend, if you haven't put that tracking code on your site, and that may not mean anything or make any sense to anybody when I say that. It's just a little bit of text that they give you. You have in your website, if you're using something like WordPress or something, They actually have a plugin for that, for analytics. And it gives you a feel, like type your tracking code in here, and then it will put it on all your pages for you. Ordinarily, you'll have a shared heading or shared header or shared footer. If you could put this into the header, then it'll be on every page automatically. That's the idea, that you want this little bit of tracking code, a little bit of code has to be on every single page of your site. And then analytics will, anytime somebody's on your site, assuming they have cookies, analytics will be able to keep track. Even if they don't have cookies, they can keep track of things like session duration and things, but they might not track where they came from. They show up as direct none or whatever if they don't know that. They won't be able to give you information about who they are, how old they are, what income bracket they're in. There's a lot of stuff in analytics about that. Like this visitor that came to you here today has also been shopping for all this other stuff online. So we put them into this demographic category. And over time, you can see like, most of my traffic comes from, women between the age of 40 and 45 who buy handbags from Neiman Marcus or whatever the case may be.
When you say it'll tell you where they came from, what kind of information will it give you?
Well, that's what about where they
Tell you
came
the
from.
Location or?
No, I'm talking about on the internet, where they came from on the internet. Like if they were on Facebook before they came to your site, if they were AdWords. There's that one slide in here actually, when we're going over analytics, it shows you exactly what it shows you. I believe that one is this one here. Down at the bottom in this little square, you can't really see it probably, but what it's listing there is Google Organic, Google CPC, and then the number of goal completions right next to it, and also the percentage
How
of
they
those people.
found your website.
Exactly. That's what I mean when they say where they came from, where else on the internet, where were they on the internet before they came to your website? The most recent thing they did on the internet before they came to you is what that is. And that's what's going to help you understand your advertising. If you are spending money on AdWords or you are spending money on Facebook ads or whatever, you'll be able to see how much of that money actually, how many leads or how many customers actually came from that money. If you get, if you spend $1,000 on AdWords and you get 5 conversions that month, well, then you just paid, what was the math, $200 per conversion. I don't know what you're selling. That's probably too much though. But if you're spending, $100 on AdWords and you get 5 conversions, you spend $20 per conversion. But if you spend $100 on Facebook and you only got 3 conversions, then you're spending $33 per conversion there. So $20 on AdWords gets you a lead, but it costs $33 on Facebook to get that same lead. Now, I'm going to spend more money on AdWords now because it's much cheaper per conversion than it is Facebook. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question. We're here and we're going to put Google Analytics code on, let's say, a thank you page.
Mm.
Now, the customer is coming from the other side and they see the thank you. Will they see the Google Analytics code?
They won't see that, although this does kind of open up another interesting topic. If you're doing things in AdWords, if you're using AdWords, for instance, you do have to tell customers or give them the ability to see on your site, usually the privacy policy page, and just have a link to a privacy policy. And when they go to that page, it'll say, we do use cookies to track customers on the site to provide a better user experience or whatever language Google gives you to use. You do have to disclose, depending on what Google tools you're using, you do have to disclose that kind of information. If you're using analytics, I don't believe, I'm going to look into this. I don't believe you're required to have the privacy policy for using analytics because you're not collecting any personal information from them in this. When you use something like remarketing from Google, where they're going to say a person comes to your website and then they go to somebody else's website and they didn't buy anything from you, but they're going to one of your competitors now. Well, you can show your ads to them while they're on the competitor's website if you're signed up for Google AdWords. So that's how, I'm sure you've noticed if you go shopping, if you were looking at mattresses yesterday and now you're going to some other website today, they're advertising mattresses to you all of a sudden. How do you know I was looking at mattresses? Well, because they know that's what they do. They track you and then they advertise to you. If you're using that type of advertising, you do have to disclose that sort of thing to customers in your privacy policy. Let them know that we do. Google gives you the specific language to use. I'm not going to do that because I'm not a lawyer and I don't have it memorized. But specifically something along the lines of, we try to provide as good of a customer experience as we can, and for that reason, we track what's happening and what people are doing on our site so that we can provide a better service to our customers, basically. It's not bad, but you do have to let people know that we do use cookies, basically. We are using tracking cookies while you're visiting here. Unless you're blocking them in your browser, we are putting stuff in your browser that's keeping track of what you're doing while you're here. It's a little scary, actually, the way the internet works nowadays in those ways.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Because of a historical publishing, I think that's overseas, this historical author's website. Now that's English, or England, UK.
Mhm.
And I found it interesting again. And I'm seeing some of these things that you're talking about. What about because it's another country, UK,
Mhm.
are they bound by the same requirements? Because this is Google's requirements and all this, it's not American, it's Google.
Yeah, Google has those requirements because of laws. If
Right.
Google had their way, I mean, if it was completely up to Google, I guess they're ethical people that work there, so they want to be ethical anyway. But assuming if it was just Google saying, well, what's the most profitable, best way for us to do things, they wouldn't tell anybody about that stuff. They would just do it. The only reason they do it is because of laws. And yes, the laws in Europe are different. They're actually stricter.
Well, today, Google Alphabet just got fined $6 billion in
Wow.
Europe because of the laws they broke there. So
Yeah.
the laws are different.
Yeah. And they just passed a big act, actually, the European Union did, about digital rights protection, about your digital information online, a new act that's protecting that in different ways than it's protected in the US. Yeah, there are different laws, and they're worse, or more strict in Europe as far as what you have to disclose to people and what you're allowed to do when they're on your site.
And by July 1st was when all of this went into effect.
Mhm.
We all had to change policies. From all of our emails, we had to send people the new policy disclosure. It's been on all of our websites because of the EU changes.
Mhm. Yeah, if you don't do business in Europe, then it doesn't matter. It's not going to change what you have to disclose. But with somebody like you, I mean, I'd imagine somebody from England could come and download your book or read your book.
Yes.
So, yeah, you have to let them know about that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Which it's, again, if you're using something like WordPress or something, they're going to handle all that stuff for you by and large. They'll let you know, like, hey, the laws have changed. Make sure you do such and such a thing if you're not already doing it, and you'll be fine. If you've kind of created your own site, or you hired somebody to create your site and it wasn't done using a platform like that, you may have to, and you have visitors that come from Europe, you potentially could have European customers. Yeah, there may be some things you'd have to change about what you're disclosing to them as of July 1st. And apparently, I mean, it's not even that clear because Google just got sued for $6 billion. You'd think they would know better. So maybe it's apparently easy to mess up, or I guess they thought they were going to get away with it. I don't know.
Just one more question. We are creating a website, and all of a sudden, someone from Africa comes on, and we talk about Europe, or Africa is not Europe.
Hmm.
So is it global, that each countries have their own rules?
Well,
That's my final question.
yeah, each country, I mean, some countries probably don't have any rules about it because it's not a big deal. It just became a thing where the internet has really only been prevalent there for 5 years. Maybe they haven't gotten those rules yet. So that may be the case. What you're dealing with ordinarily from Google is a globally applicable disclosure. The only thing that recently changed about that, because things changed in Europe as of July 1st, that's the only time in all the years I've been doing this, when you have to make a special exception for somebody from a certain geographic location. Ordinarily, it's been a blanket across the board. These are going to meet every single country's disclosure requirements. That's what Google provides, because Google is extremely global. Obviously, they do business everywhere. But yeah, this is the first time I've encountered it where you literally have to provide people from a certain geographic location different information because of laws that changed.
Thank you.
There's probably going to be more of that, though, to be honest. If anything, it's going to get worse before it gets better in that way. Go ahead. Did you have a question? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were raising your hand.
Oh, no.
Yeah, if I get in, this is, like I said, what I ordinarily would do for most people that contact me. They have existing websites and they want to, first of all, search engine optimization is the primary thing, I guess. But in the process of doing that, I try to set things up in this way as well. Make sure there are good call to action buttons. Make sure you have forms that you can use to capture people's information. Set it up in analytics so that you're tracking all this stuff. Because anything that you do to improve search engine ranking is kind of useless to you if the traffic's coming to your site and not finding what they're looking for, getting confused, going somewhere else before they actually become a customer or become a reader or subscriber or whatever you're looking to get. So these things are very important at the very early stages, either when you're setting up your site or if you're trying to optimize your site for search engines. I highly recommend thinking in these terms as well, because you're not wasting your efforts or spinning your wheels necessarily by optimizing your site. But if you're optimizing a site that is confusing or not getting customers to do what you want them to do, then it's not really that helpful to you. It doesn't matter how many people come and visit your site if you're not making it possible for them to become customers or subscribers at that point. But I always recommend, it's all part and parcel. It's all part of the same thing. It goes hand in hand. The one thing that you do to improve the user experience on your site, that's not necessarily going to help your search engine ranking. But when your search engine ranking does improve and you start to get more traffic, it is going to help convert that traffic for you. So don't neglect one for the sake of the other. I definitely try to focus on both of those things at the same time as much as possible. I did actually have a handout, but I didn't print it, so I can't hand it out. But what I could do is I'll email that to Jim as well. It's really just a cool list of 7 ways to create killer CTAs or something like that from WordStream. I was reading it this morning. I thought, well, that's actually pretty interesting. That'll be appropriate. So I put that together as well. I'll see if we can distribute that to everybody on the email list. It's just some cool suggestions for good CTA, good call to action that actually work. And WordStream is, I don't know if anybody knows what they are, but they manage people's pay-per-click advertising accounts, like on Google AdWords or Bing advertising. They're a big company that does this for, they manage billions and billions of dollars a month in pay-per-click advertising. So they have huge sets of data on what works and what doesn't, and what their customers are doing. And so when they provide information like this, it's very scientific. It's based very much on their actual research. It's not just, we think this is how things work. I'm into marketing and this sort of thing sounds cool to me. I was like very much based on real data and actual things that have been experienced by the people who are doing this every day. And there's a lot of information available about that. And that's what the CTA button list is, of cool suggestions. It's actually based on their actual data and not just what they think is a good idea. So I'll try to get that distributed as well.
Again, please.
WordStream.
WordStream.
Yes, if you go there, they will forever, the rest of your life, constantly email you and try to send you stuff and sell you their service.
Okay.
But there's a lot of good free stuff on there. I recommend going there. If you don't mind, you're going to probably have to sign up, I think, to read a lot of the stuff. They'll ask for an email address. And once you do that, you're going to be an email forever until you opt out. But you can opt out at any time. But they very much are into email advertising.
With WordStream, did you talk to us about that at our first meeting?
I did not.
Okay, there was something that I signed up here and I did about the keyword.
SEM Rush, I think that was probably.
Okay, and then I started receiving so many emails and I just stopped everything, but I think I stopped Score. So now I have to go, but once you contact me, that will reactivate it.
Well, did you register for this particular workshop,
I've been out of town and state,
Okay.
things are happening, and so I don't know if I just went, oh, there's another one, and I just wanted to cut contact.
Were you on the list back here?
I didn't see it, and I wrote my name.
All right. Then I don't know. I was gonna say, if you registered for this workshop, then I'll just have Jim send it to that particular email list of the people who are registered to be here. Then you would definitely be on it, whether you unsubscribed or not. We could add you again.
Oh, okay.
But did you put your email on there by any
Yes.
chance? Oh, okay. Well, then, yeah, we should be able to send that to you. And a link to this video of the presentation as well,
Yes,
if anybody can review that. I actually had it planned on the presentation taking about an hour. We got through about 30 minutes. I think I went pretty fast, it turns out. Go ahead.
Yeah.
It was like at the 1,000
Okay.
miles square here.
Oh, yeah, one was just a quick,
Okay.
I wasn't understanding, I don't know if it has anything to do with what you were saying, as I was trying, in my mind, I'm trying to think of things that I'm having issues with and how it connects to any of this. Like with the traffic, the discovering part, okay? Like I keep getting this thing from, and I've tried to do it through Yelp and stuff to, so that people, and it does show right away when you put my name in there, my business, But they want to verify my business, they do this little verification code, and then they say, we'll be back to you in 24 to 48 hours. Well, because it's not really a business, it's just the ministry I was telling you. I don't have a business phone, so it never lets me like put my phone number and put some random weird number in there. It never can verify me because I don't have I don't know if my Verizon's not in the name of the business. Is that what's causing that? I can't seem to figure out why it never lets me complete my process.
I wouldn't think that. I mean, with Yelp in particular, I've gone there for other people, like on their behalf, and created Yelp. Again, because they have to do that verification process, I'll just put my phone number in during that part so that I can get the phone call and get it done. And I've never had a problem with it. And that's with me, my cell phone number on 15 different businesses that are listed on Yelp. I'll go back and change it later.
Right.
But Yelp is, they're very interested in selling you their services too. So I think the primary reason they want the phone number is not so the listing is accurate, it's that they can call you. I get calls from Yelp every week. Them saying like, hey, I see you're offering free consultation. Did you put that on Yelp? Because we got people that are in your line of work that have free consultations and they get lots and lots of business from Yelp. And you should give us money and you can get a lot of business from us too. I like to put stuff on Yelp because of the backlink, the link juice as they call it, because it's got a lot of domain authority. Yelp is a very highly trafficked site. So when you've got a link from a site that has a lot of traffic coming back to your site, that helps with your search engine ranking. That's one of the things you can do if you're looking for your search engine ranking. That's the first thing I would get out there, create a Google My Business listing, Bing Places, whitepages.com, anywhere you can put a free listing that has a link to your site. Just get out there and spread it around as much as you can.
What are they verifying though? I guess I don't understand that. What is it that they're verifying that they're not able to verify that I'm the owner of that business?
I don't think it's anything. I mean, I honestly think the primary reason they want the phone number is so that they can call you and try to sell you stuff.
Because when you bring it up, it's an 877 number on it's my name, my business, but it's got some 87. When I dial it, I'm like, well, maybe they gave me a toll-free number, and I
Right.
call it and it's doo-doo-doo. We're sorry, that number cannot be reached this time.
That is very strange. I have no idea why that would be.
Okay.
I mean, if it's 877 number, are you putting do they need you to put the country code in maybe? Maybe you have to do 1877?
I've done more times I've gone back and put my phone number, change your number. If this is not your number, claim your business, I went through the whole process,
Yeah.
control code, put my code in, and then I get the little thing that says, we'll be back to you in 24. Then I get an email, I'm sorry, we were not able to verify your. What can you verify?
I don't know. I have no idea what that is. Sorry, I can't help you with that.
It's okay.
I've never heard of
I
that.
can't seem to get a hold of them either.
I mean, one thing you could
Get
try
a hold of.
as a workaround, if you go to get a Google phone number for free, you can just go get a phone number from Google and try that in your Yelp page, and maybe they'll put that up there.
I have Google Suite, so I have my domain through Google.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably have a phone number they already gave you.
Right, I
Maybe.
don't even know.
What you do is go on, where they got all the apps for Google. You
Yeah.
go to that little square that's got all the dots.
Right.
Click on that, and it'll show you a bunch of stuff. You probably have to go more.
Right,
And you find Google Voice,
That's what
and that's the phone number, and then you sign up, and they'll sign, and you can actually ask for a number if you want a particular number.
Mhm.
You can ask for it, and they'll give you an area and all types of things. And then the good thing about the Google number is that if anybody calls you, it's always screened. You will know who's calling, and it'll automatically, if it goes into voicemail, it'll send you a transcript of what they said in an email to you, so you have it right there. So it's really good if somebody says,
It's free?
yes, it's free. This is Mary, call me at whatever number. You'll have that all there in the transcript in your email, and then you can just call back. It's a great way to go if you want to put your phone number out there. in the public domain, and
have to
it
do
screens
my personal
everything, and then it rings into your own phone. That's the other part. You can have it ring into 3 different phones, and you can change it to any phone you want. If you were going to you were in a summer cottage and you wanted it to ring into that phone for those 3 months, you just go up there and change it, and it'll ring to that phone.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is
I'm glad I came.
that's one thing I would try for sure, get one of their phone numbers and see if you can do that.
Maybe it'll work better.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I have anything I can really add without getting into deep and dark, murky areas. Yes.
You don't look anything like those guys in the
No, oh, good. I don't even think I've seen the commercial.
Oh, they're awful.
But yeah, if I could reiterate the importance of analytics, highly recommended. If you don't use analytics, get it on your site as soon as possible. Even if you're not gonna do the goals and stuff, there's just to have it on your site so you can track the traffic and see how long people are spending there. You can actually follow a path. I can't log into analytics. I'm logged into the SCORE Google account on this computer right now because of the live broadcast. And if I log into my Google account, then it'll cancel the broadcast. So I can't do that. But I was going to get into analytics and actually show you some of the really cool information. You can track every single visitor that comes to your site. It'll show you the path they traveled. That little flow chart thing. They came into your site. They landed on this page. They went from that page to this page. The percentage of people that landed on this page went to this page, and it's got like lines going everywhere. Depending on how big the line is, that's how many people went that way. It's just a visual way of looking at the way your site is working for people. Like if everybody who's coming to your site, and 90% of them are leaving your homepage and going to the about page and then leaving the website, it's like, well, maybe there's something I need to fix about my about page or something that's not working too well. But it'll show you where people are dropping off, at what page people are dropping off from the site, which the bounce rate is how frequently people leave your site before they even being there long enough for the entire page to load, essentially. And you'll get, and analytics now also gives you a lot of insight on like page speeds and things. Google used to have separate tools for all this stuff, and they still do, but pretty much anywhere you are using the Google Webmaster tools now, they'll give you a little bits of insight into other things. So if you're interested in your page loading speeds, which is another thing for search engine optimization purposes, if you have like a lot of images on your pages, for instance, you definitely want to be aware of how big those images are for file size, or you can make them smaller. And there are free tools you can use to reduce file size and images, make them as small as possible, get your page speeds down, because your page speeds are a part of what Google's using to rank you in search engine results as well. If your site takes, I don't know exactly what the cutoff point is, but it's like literally like if it's 4.2 seconds of loading, it's like 80% of people will leave that page before it's done loading. These are the actual statistics that Google's citing on this. So because of that fact, if your site loads too slowly, they won't even put it in their search results, or at least put it way down low in the search results, because they consider it a bad user experience. They know 80% of the people who go to this page are just going to leave anyway before they do anything. So we're not even going to rank you in our listings here. So that's something. It's not just as far as the user experience, but as far as actually letting Google rank you and giving them a reason to rank you higher. Page speed has become a pretty big factor, especially again because of mobile devices. The browsers on an Android device or iPhone they don't have as big of a cache as like a desktop computer. They can't store as much information. They can't do things as quickly as a desktop device does if it's a page you haven't been to before. If you've been there before, they'll have some of that stored in the cache. The images, anything that take a long time to load will already be in your cache for that site, so it loads quickly the next time you go back. But if you're a first-time visitor on a phone as compared to a desktop or laptop computer, that's a different experience. Page speed becomes much more important, and Google is taking that very seriously now. That's one thing I would suggest for sure. But other things you can see when you're in analytics, which I love analytics, it's a very cool tool because it's free. You'll see the acquisition. So you don't need to have a goal in order to see where your site traffic's coming from. And just make sure that's clear. You can see the source on this screen where those conversions actually came from. But if you look over I believe it's here, acquisition. Click there, and it'll show you where all the traffic that's been to your site came from. You can see, so if you're not converting them and you don't have any way of tracking that, you'll at least know, I'm getting, 100 visitors a day from this website. Maybe I should put a little bit more time into whatever I'm doing there to get that traffic here, or spend more money there, or whatever it is. Audience is gonna give you your demographic information about what types of people are coming here, what age are they, what other sorts of things are they interested in. Again, anybody who's in this direct none category, which this is very frustrating, I'll warn everybody now, there's a good chance half or even the majority of your traffic is going to be direct none, or Google has no idea where it came from. So it's, as cool as it is to track all this information, you really only know about half of the people that are actually coming to your site, because the other half are falling through this hole where they're not tracking what they're doing, because usually in most cases I think it's just that they don't accept cookies in the browser. You can set your browser to block all cookies, which makes it hard to use a lot of websites nowadays. But if you're really concerned about security, I've set mine to medium, block third-party cookies. If you're on a site and a third party who's not part of that site is trying to store a cookie in my browser, it won't block it, but it'll let me know that's happening, and I can choose, whether or not I want to. And cookies aren't like a bad thing ordinarily, but it's just the way your things are advertised to you, the way things are presented to you as you're online are all based on your cookie history, basically. You'll see too, behavior is where you're going to see their flow path through the site, where they came in, what they did while they were there, when they left the site, how long they spent on each page. You'll be able to see all that information as well. You're also going to get your device. In your audience information, I believe is where your devices, your behavior area is where the devices is. Were they looking at it on a tablet, on a phone, looking on a laptop, a desktop? You'll see all that as well. And you can see how much of the traffic coming to it is coming from mobile devices and how much is coming from desktop or laptops. In most cases, I've looked at a lot of different people's websites over the years. Pretty much everybody, no matter what you do, what field you're in, you're getting probably half of your traffic from mobile devices. And that's increasing all the time. There's so many people, especially if you do something that's international, in other countries, you're much, much more likely to get traffic from a mobile device than you are from a desktop or laptop. I won't say, in all other countries, but in developing parts of the world for sure, the website traffic that's coming is coming primarily from mobile devices. And that's one of the very cool things that you can do is kind of map out the customer journey using analytics, and based on that information, learn about how your website is working and what pages are keeping people's attention. What pages are, and this is a good thing too, if you can get into that and see that all the conversions that you're getting, before they converted, they all visited this whatever page on your website. Not Facebook or AdWords, I'm not saying before they get to your website, just say they come to your website and you have a particular page that's describing something about your product, and 90% of your conversions are coming from that page. Well, now you know, this is, I'm doing something right about this page. So I can repeat what I'm doing here, take those techniques and apply them to other parts of my website to see if I can get those pages converting better as well. You can learn what people like about your site and what they don't like about your site from this kind of information and make changes accordingly. Some other places, if you're interested in learning more about landing pages, CTAs, forms, and the customer experience in that way. HubSpot is a marketing platform. It costs money. I doubt any of you would be interested in using the actual platform, but they provide a lot of free information. They have a blog, lots of articles, white papers, talking about what they call inbound marketing, which is what this is, how to present things to people who are coming to you already, essentially. And there's a lot of content marketing, which I'm going to be talking about next month in there as well, how to create free content that anybody can have that doesn't cost any money, and use that to actually attract real paying customers back to you. HubSpot's one that's good. WordStream is an advertising platform that is specifically for pay-per-click advertising. They have some really cool tools. If you do like AdWords or you do pay-per-click advertising right now, they will analyze, if the free scan, they will analyze your AdWords accounts and tell you, mapped up against their expectations, kind of their database of millions of people who are doing AdWords, how you measure up against them as far as your click-through rates, your cost per click. You have to tell them what industry you're in so they can compare you to the right people, because a cost per click and to a car dealer is gonna be very different than to a lawyer, for instance, or those kinds of things. But if you are already advertising with AdWords, I definitely recommend WordStream and their free tools. But if you're not advertising, their scan and stuff is not gonna be useful to you, but again, they have their blog, their white papers, the content they've created, that's free for everyone. Very educational, and again, data-based, based on actual real customer, real people who are doing this inbound, HubSpot is the same way. They're very much analytics driven. The information they provide is not, some thing that some professor told them about while they were studying, marketing at Cornell one day. It's actual real data showing us this. These are the facts based on what's happening. Regardless of my opinion, or if it makes sense to me, that's what's happening, and that's what they're going to tell you about. And speculate as to why it's happening that way, and maybe give you some suggestions as to how you can take advantage of that. But by and large, what you're learning from them is what the actual facts of website traffic and actual internet traffic are presenting to them based on actual data. So I guess if there are no other questions, I'm going to have Jim or Catherine, whoever do it, send an email with a link to this presentation and the handout that I was going to give to everybody about the CTAs. So you can get that sent to everybody. And I don't know when that'll go out, but I think that's about a wrap for me. Then if you guys have all done your feedback forms, I would appreciate them. If you haven't done them yet, you still can, there's still time.
Do you have an extra one?
I do have one left. Oh,
Unless
two left.
somebody
I have
doesn't
two
have
left.
one.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Let's take a note as recommended though. Good stuff.
Thank you. Also, a question.
Yes.
Is this like a live stream, like it's being broadcasted right now?
Mhm.
Okay, I didn't know if it was like a video and then it's gonna be posted, or if it's being like
It's
broadcast.
literally like right now, we're actually still broadcasting.
What's the name of the live stream?
Score workshop 7/18/2018, whatever the date is today. It's on Jim Green's channel, the YouTube channel, Jim Green. Speaking of which, I need to go stop it actually.
I want to create some inception.
I'm gonna do that real quick. Hold on one second, Jim.